Hello, Phantoms, and welcome to Midnight Monster-Rama. I'm Nick.
And I'm Byron.
And this is Horace. Tonight, we are going to watch a movie that I have never seen, or better yet, I have never seen in full. Actually, the entire series.
John Carpenter's Halloween. I've seen this movie a million times. I've seen the whole series a million times, and I love it to death. But Nick here, coming in fresh. Tell me what you know about Halloween.
I know that I really love the soundtrack, and I've seen Busta Rhymes fight Michael Myers, which was pretty dope. Otherwise, I've seen bits and pieces here and there, and it's crazy because I am a John Carpenter fan. I was just, whenever those movies shown on TV, it would always be like part 5 or part 3 and never part 1. So like whenever I got the chance to see it, I just kind of went, oh, well, I want to start from the beginning.
So if you're coming into this fresh too, let's talk for a minute about Halloween. This film came out in 1978. It was directed by John Carpenter. It was written by Carpenter and Deborah Hill, produced by Deborah Hill.
Starring the magnificent Jamie Lee Curtis. I love her.
She is amazing. It's her first film. We got Donald Pleasance. It blew up. It was a huge hit, changed everything.
It is basically the start of the slasher genre.
After that, people were just searching for holidays to put some killer in. And Friday the 13th.
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
My Bloody Valentine.
Slaughter High.
Blood Rage.
Sleepaway Camp.
Prom Night.
Open House.
Terror Train. So what do you think this movie's gonna be like?
I want to be blown away by this movie like other Carpenter films such as The Thing or Big Trouble in Little China.
And now we're gonna go watch John Carpenter's Halloween, Nick's first time seeing it ever. And then we're gonna come back here and we're gonna talk all about it. We're gonna dig in to Halloween.
Come on out.
And Phantoms, we are back. We finally watched, well, I finally watched Halloween.
How was it?
It was amazing. It was very, very good. It was a lot more than I expected, that's for sure.
Watching it for the first time now, and you've seen parodies, movies about slasher movies, other slasher movies. What was it like watching this one when you've seen some of those other ones already?
Well, one thing I definitely noticed is that in the 1970s, people having sex only takes about 60 seconds.
That is true.
They weren't lying when they made the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I know, bad joke. Keep it. But what I really did like about the movie was the pacing. It was slow and menacing, and it didn't speed up. It just went at this same just crawl. That's the problem with some movies is that sometimes the suspense takes way too long and you're just kind of taken away from the movie entirely. However, with how the scenes are and how the shots are done, I could really appreciate just the tension that's in the air. After years of watching horror films and slasher films, you always expect, oh, the attack's gonna happen right now. I don't like doing that, but in your head, it happens. I am so pleased when it doesn't happen.
I noticed that more this time. There's so many moments when they set it up that he's going to strike and he doesn't. Or even watching it now, there's parts where I'm like, man, go ahead and kill her. You're stalking her. She's alone in this laundry room. Get her, you're the boogeyman.
And I thought that was gonna happen.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, come on, here we go now, all right. But instead it turned out to be quite funny. And, the kid gets involved too. She's like, really? You're watching me? But I think the nod that I liked the most was throughout the entire film, they're watching The Thing, which is my favorite John Carpenter film.
It's so cool that he got to put one of his favorite movies in the background and then ended up getting to make the most amazing remake ever of that movie.
Oh, absolutely.
One of my favorite moments in there is when Laurie is, she's exhausted, she's traumatized, and he just comes out of the shadows.
Oh, that shadow scene is the best.
It's one of my favorite things ever.
You see it, you
in
can
life.
Just barely see it, and then all of a sudden you see it, and then it starts moving even faster, and just, ooh, that buildup was good.
And probably my favorite thing in the entire movie the cemetery sequence. I mean, old man tells the Charlie Bowles, Russellville story, but he doesn't get to finish it because that's the point. It sets everything up for the movie, for the point of the film.
Yeah, and it's like, they leave it so open-ended that you're just like, well, what did you do with the hacksaw?
And I love stuff like that in movies. And the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake from the 70s, another one of my favorite movies.
The one with Donald Sutherland?
Yes.
Yeah.
When they're in the car, he's telling a joke, and then the joke gets interrupted midway through, creates that just extra bit of tension. I love those little moments in films. Do you have any favorite moments?
Number one goes to the inky blackness. That was just beautifully done. But I have to admit, when you first see Mike Myers, and it's because he crawled up on the back of the car, and then he just drives off, leaving Loomis and the nurse behind, I was just like, that's funny. One thing that surprised me, though, I didn't expect to see his face at all. I mean, except in the beginning of the movie as a child. And I was like, oh, okay, iconic William Shatner mask, and there you go. But yeah, I didn't expect to see his face, so that was kind of a shocker to me.
In the credits to the film, the actor that plays him the 2 times you see his face is credited as Michael Myers. The actor, Nick Castle, who plays him when he's got the mask on, is credited as The Shape. He's not Michael Myers once the mask's on. He's The Shape.
The Shape.
He's the shape of all evil.
I like that. So how old were you when you first watched the movie?
I don't remember exactly how old I was. I know I was elementary school age. I remember watching part 1 and 2 and 3, randomly when I was very young. The first time I remember watching it and it making a real impact on me was when I was in high school.
And that's around the time that you were really studying film and stuff, right?
Yeah. And I'd seen a bit of a documentary on it and sort of, talking about the boogeyman aspects, which really resonated with me. I love esoteric characters like that, like the boogeyman. My favorite movie is Dust Devil by Richard Stanley. So I remember watching it alone one night in October and just feeling really rattled by it. What I love so much about the first Halloween, it's all about these rites of passage, and we see it, we literally see it. I mean, the 2 people who know the truth in the film are the old man and the little kid. They're the only ones that seem to know that it really is literally the boogeyman that only comes out on Halloween and can't die. They tell you clearly throughout the movie, and that's the whole theme and thesis is, are they right? Then you have Laurie, who's in the middle, who's going through her rite of passage as an adolescent, and we see her have to go through all that, and we see her doubting it and not wanting to believe it and struggling with everything any of us ever did at that age, and then having to just fight through this nightmare. How adolescence and becoming an adult is terrifying, how all the rituals of that are terrifying, sex for the first time. It's all in there. This movie is so full of crazy subtext.
What I like is that you do get involved with the characters without that much background, but you actually do feel kind of a connection with them in a certain way. You never see Paul, but you're actually kind of going, I wonder when he's going to show up. If he just decided, oh, well, she didn't pick me up, so I'm just going to walk on over. And I kind of wanted a clue scene to happen with the singing telegram. Just Paul opens the door. Hey guys, it's Paul. That would have just been funny. But I'm kind of glad that they didn't go that route.
One thing they did when they wrote the script was Carpenter focused on the Dr. Loomis and the sheriff and everything. Deborah Hill wrote all the dialogue for the women, and she based it on real stuff. From when she was a teenager, because they were in their early 20s. It was fresh. These characters that are instantly relatable. They're talking about stuff that every kid goes through, and doing goofy stuff like singing goofy songs and stuff. I mean, all those little touches.
That's the thing. Yeah, that is one thing I did like, was that you're expecting the scare to happen when they're looking around. Nope, just whistling, humming, and singing a song, and then all of a sudden, I like that because they're talking about there's the basic sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but then there's also school and I forgot my book, and does this person like me? And the dance is tomorrow. Another thing I really enjoyed about the film was the camera work. In the beginning, it was a total POV shot. And then throughout the film, as you're getting used to seeing all the characters and stuff, sometimes it goes back to that POV shot. I like that mixture.
They got a Steadicam, and they really put it to great use because all through the film, even when he's not actually stalking them, the way the camera moves, it feels like it's kind of stalking them.
You're talking about movies like The Exorcist and The Shining, and those movies are all fantastic. As a matter of fact, Exorcist is definitely in my top 10. They were very visually frightening. And some of my other main favorite movies is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which everybody thinks is like super gory and all this and that, when it's not. It's all in your head, barely any gore. It's all implied, which I think is fantastic. And Halloween really hit the nail on the head with that. They didn't have to go over the top on anything. The frights were there and they were just done so organically. It was perfect. Now, granted, the dude getting stabbed into a wall is just like, okay, that's silly, but I loved it anyway. I mean, sometimes you live for those moments. Yeah. Or die for those moments, whatever.
You think of the slasher genre, and many of them after this did rely on the old, the gorier the better.
Oh, yeah.
But this film was not trying to be gory at all. It was trying to be scary.
And I think that is part of good story writing and good horror writing, is that whatever is implied and whatever makes you think is just as scary as like anything that Tom Savini could touch and work on, which, mad respect to Tom, and anybody else involved with special effects and stuff. It's just, I like films that can do that, where it can take you to another place, frighten the pants off of you, and still be like, haha, you got scared over nothing. And I like that. Not like, like a jump scare or something. However, if done right, it's good.
Sure, there's always room for one good scare.
Exactly. Don't I know it? So all in all, I give the very first Halloween a 10 out of 10 because it was just that good.
This is one of my favorite movies. I think it's a nearly flawless film. I give it easily 10 out of 10. I could watch it a million times. I always get a little something new out of it, and I'm always moved by all the little things that get me every time. We made it through. We did Halloween. Next up, Halloween 2, War of the Night He Came Home. Thank you all so much for watching. If you really like this, please give it a like. If you really, really liked it, please subscribe. It means the world to us. It really helps.
And make sure you hit the bell icon next to the subscribe so you will know when the next episode is coming up. And of course, we would love to hear from you, our dear phantoms. And thank you for tuning into Midnight Monster-Rama. I'm Nick.
I'm Byron.
And we will be seeing you next time. Say goodnight, Horace.
That sounded like Horace. I hope he's okay.